Okay, it looks like we're getting pretty close here to start time here. So I want to thank everybody again for being here this afternoon to our second Lunch and Learn webinar today about reciprocity. So let's see here, just to kind of go give you a little overview of what these webinars are going to be like. This is the second iteration of our Lunch and Learn webinar that I launched in February. These are going to be during the lunch hour where we talk about one specific topic for retirement. The presentation usually lasts anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes, give or take the topic, and then the remaining time in the hour will be for questions that you may have. So if you have any questions, feel free to use that Q&A function there to post your questions. We will get to that later on. If I can't get to your question or I don't have the answer right away, that's, don't be alarmed. I will get that answer for you, and I will reach back, get in touch with you and get that answer to you. So it is 12:10, so I guess we are going to get started here. My name is Jared Wong. I'm the communications analyst here with FCERA, Fresno County Employees Retirement Association. And once again, I want to thank you all for being here to this webinar today. Today's topic here in the Lunch and Learn webinar is going to be about reciprocity. Now, if for some reason you may need to leave the webinar early, that's okay. I will be posting this later on online so you can rewatch this. And then I will also be sending out a survey later this afternoon, just to kind of give me some feedback so we can keep improving these Lunch and Learn webinars and just getting better and better with them. So let's get started with today's webinar. So I have a little bit of an agenda here for today. So here's some of the topics that I'm going to be talking about. So we're again going to touch upon what is a defined benefit plan, which is your pension that you get from FCERA. So we're going to touch a little bit on that. Then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of the presentation. So then we're going to talk about what is reciprocity, the advantages of reciprocity, what happens if you break reciprocity, how can you establish this, the different reciprocal agencies that we can establish reciprocity with, and then finally retiring with reciprocity and the things that you need to look out for. So the first slide here in the presentation is defined benefit plan. So if you're unaware or did not know, your retirement with FCERA is called a defined benefit plan. So what that means is it is a lifetime benefit based on specific factors, meaning that when you meet the retirement eligibility requirements, you'll get a payment from us every month for the rest of your life. Now, some of the factors that we look at when we help calculate what your lifetime monthly benefit is are your tier level and membership classification. So if you're a general member or a safety member, and then after that, we look at these other three factors here. We look at your age of retirement, we look at your years of service or what we call service credit, and then we look at your salary or what we call final average compensation. We look at those three factors there mostly to help calculate what your benefit will be from us every month for the rest of your life. Now, members do need to be vested in the plan in order to receive any type of benefit from FCERA. To be vested in our plan, you need to at least have 5 years of service. But I'd imagine that most of you in this webinar today probably do have 5 years of service or are pretty close. And when we're getting more into reciprocity talk here, we're going to show how reciprocity can help you toward that vesting period. So the main topic of what this presentation is about today is reciprocity. So what is it? Well, reciprocity is the linking of 2 or more California public agencies. So we're linking those retirement systems together. Reciprocity encourages a career in the public sector while it also protects the value of your pension. And it also works as a two-way street, meaning that some people, when you were hired before you came to the county, you may have worked for a prior California public agency. So if that was the case, you may be able to establish reciprocity with your prior employer and FCERA. Now, for some, that may not even apply. And they may, let's say they came from the private sector and then before joining the county, or another one of our plan sponsors like the courts of Fresno, Clovis Veterans Memorial District, Fresno Madera Agency on Aging, and then the Fresno Mosquito and Vector Control District. So any one of our plan sponsors. get a join there, and then let's say that you were to think about leaving that employer and going to another California public agency, you can establish reciprocity that way as well. So it can work as either way. There's a bunch of different ways that this can work, but it mostly encourages a career in the public sector. So why would someone want to establish links between two California public agencies? Well, here's the big reason why. There are advantages of doing so, and I have those listed here on the screen. And then after I kind of go over these advantages, I'm going to kind of paint the picture a little bit bigger and give you an example of how this all applies. So for the first thing, years of service is one advantage of establishing reciprocity. So your years of service or your service credit will be added together from all systems to determine vesting and retirement eligibility status. The second advantage of someone wanting to establish reciprocity is salary or final average compensation. Your benefit will be based on highest final average compensation at any linked agency. And then the other one will apply to members that are in tiers 1 through 4. Contribution rates. So FCERA will use the member's entry age from reciprocal agency to determine contribution rates. So for example, on this one here, let's say that if you fall into age-based tiers from CalPERS and FCERA. So let's say that CalPERS is, I got a little ahead of myself. CalPERS is one of the agencies that we can establish reciprocity with. So let's say that I worked for CalPERS and I worked there and I was, let's just say I was 23 at the time that I was hired. And then let's say I left, I worked there for 2 years and I left and I came to the county of Fresno and I established reciprocity and I was in an age-based tier like this. Because I was able to establish reciprocity, I would be paying contributions on the age that I was hired at CalPERS of 23 instead of paying the contributions at the age of 25, which is when I became a member from FCERA. So that's kind of how that contribution rate there works. Now, I'm going to kind of back up and talk about, more importantly, the first two bullet points there and how that kind of works in an example. So as I mentioned earlier, years of service is one of the big advantages there because your years of service will be added together from all your reciprocal agencies that you've linked to determine vesting and retirement eligibility status. So I'll kind of take that first example I had. Let's say that I worked at CalPERS or the state of California under the CalPERS system for 2 years. Let's say I left and I came to the county of Fresno. Okay. Now, let's just say that I stayed at the county of Fresno for the remainder of my career, which is 30 years, let's just say hypothetically. So because I established that link, both systems can use the years of service that you worked at each agency to be added together to help you make yourself vested in their plan if you're not already vested. So for example, like CalPERS, I believe you need to have 5 years of service to be vested, similar to ours. Well, in that example I gave you, I only worked 2 years before I left and joined the county of Fresno. But because I established reciprocity, CalPERS can use the 30 years that I worked at the county of Fresno to make me vested in their plan with only 2 years of service. So I can actually get a benefit from them based off of the 2 years of service that I worked. Now let's take that a step further. Let's look at that second bullet point right there, salary or final average compensation. So again, your benefit will be based on the highest final average compensation at any of the linked agencies that you make. Well, let's say at CalPERS, the highest salary I made was $40,000. Let's say by the time I'm ready to retire, and the highest salary I made at the county of Fresno was $80,000. Let's just say, make easy round numbers. So when I'm ready to retire, because I established that link, both CalPERS and FCERA can use that $80,000 salary to calculate your benefit. Pretty good, right? That's really, really good. That's one of those two right there are the biggest advantages of establishing that reciprocal link, especially that first bullet point. If you only worked for a couple years under one public agency and you weren't vested in the plan, and then you happen to go to another California public agency right after, that really helps out a lot of people. So I've seen, in my personal experience, I've seen it work both ways. I've seen people start as FCERA members, then leave to another California public agency, and vice versa, taking advantage of all those advantages that you see on the screen right there. So that's a huge reason why people want to establish this reciprocal link. And I don't believe I mentioned this or I put this in the PowerPoint presentation, but I'll mention it now because it kind of applies. So reciprocity does provide a lot of advantages, but it isn't optional. Just because you qualify for reciprocity does not mean that you have to establish it. It is something optional, and it's a choice that you need to make if that's what you want to do. So just keep that in mind. It's not something that's mandatory. It is optional to you, but in most cases, a lot of people take advantage of that because of these advantages that you're seeing on the screen there. So let's get to the next part here. So we talked about the advantages. So, okay, what's the disadvantages of establishing this link? Well, that's what we call breaking reciprocity. And if you break this reciprocal link, it could have a really bad negative impact on your retirement. So the first bullet point there is a change in your age-based contribution rate. That's huge because I've actually seen that in the past for some people. Some examples. So what this means is if we kind of go back to that advantages part here, the third bullet point where I barely touched upon, if you're in an age-based contribution rate tier, so for example, in FCERA's plan, it's tiers 1 through 4 or age-based. Tier 5 is a flat rate contribution plan, so this doesn't apply. But let's say you're in tiers 1 through 4. And I mentioned that if you, let's say that you worked at CalPERS at age 23, you worked there for 2 years, and you came over to the county of Fresno, established reciprocity with FCERA, but initially you started paying contributions at age 25 when you were hired at the county until reciprocity has been officially confirmed and established. Then we change your age to 23 because of that reciprocal link. Well, if you are paying contributions at age 23 for, let's say, 10 years, and then for some reason you break reciprocity, whether you leave employment with the county, you decide to refund your funds and refund your funds with CalPERS as well and break reciprocity, or vice versa, something like that. If you break that reciprocal link, then what happens is, I apologize. That was really bad of me. I apologize. Forget about that refund process, but let's just say that you break reciprocity with CalPERS and County of Fresno or FCERA. Now, instead of paying contributions at age 23, you're now paying, you have to go back and start paying contributions at age 25. Well, you've been paying contributions at age 23 for 10 years. So you've been underpaying contributions for those 10 years because you broke that reciprocity. So guess what? You have to make up those contributions with us in order to make the plan whole again, to make it correct. So you're actually going to owe us money for breaking reciprocity because you've underpaid contributions for that time that you had established before that link was broken. That's what I meant to say. I apologize for the confusion if there was any right there. So the second link there, breaking reciprocity, may affect your eligibility to retire in each system that you have linked. Well, that coincides with bullet point right there on the advantages, years of service. So if you're relying on reciprocity to make yourself vested in one of the linked agencies and you happen to break that link, you're no longer able to use those years of services from that other agency. So that could affect your eligibility to retire with that system because you're no longer vested and could receive any type of benefit. So that's an issue. So that's another huge reason to why breaking reciprocity can be very bad on your retirement. And the last one is also important too. By breaking reciprocity, you no longer share the highest final average compensation between all the linked agencies. Just like that example I used with CalPERS in FCERA. CalPERS, the highest I earned was $40,000. FCERA, $80,000. FCERA and CalPERS are going to use that $80,000 salary. By breaking that link, you can no longer use that salary there from the shared between all linked parties. So that can be pretty bad for your retirement benefit if you already had plans set in. So you don't want to break reciprocity. So another thing about breaking reciprocity, there's also refund of contributions. So you cannot refund your contributions from the previous agency until you refund your contributions from the most current agency. So we do have some people that, let's see, establish reciprocity and they're not vested in either plan, and they want to pull their money out from the previous employer. They don't want to establish reciprocity anymore. Well, we can't, the previous employer cannot refund until you refund from the most current agency that you're employed with or you last worked with. So keep that in mind. Now, in regards to disability retirement, your benefit may be adjusted based on your award disability benefit from the reciprocal agency. So this gets a little more detailed and involved. So if you have reciprocity later down the line and you potentially could be filing for a disability application with either agency or both, you want to contact our office and talk about that with our disability specialist. They'll be able to kind of help you out with that. So those are kind of the main disadvantages of establishing or breaking reciprocity, excuse me. Now, we're going to go into how do you establish reciprocity. So let's say, okay, I saw those advantages. I'm in. That's what I want. Those are great. How do I do something like this? Well, it's very easy, actually. If you meet these qualifications that you see on the screen right there, you can establish reciprocity. So the first thing is you must terminate and leave contributions on deposit at a prior retirement association, meaning that you can't work for two agencies at the same time. So you have to leave one employer before going to the next. The next thing is, on top of that, you have to make sure that you leave your contributions on deposit with that prior agency that you left. You cannot take your money out. You can't roll it over to another personal investment account, things like that. That money has to sit in that retirement association. Okay. Now, the next thing is you must establish a new membership at a new association within 6 months of leaving the prior association, meaning that from the last day that you worked at the prior agency, you have 6 months from that day to join another California public agency and become a member. If you become a member within 6 months and you terminate and leave your contributions on deposit with the prior retirement agency, we can establish reciprocity. So that's really it as far as establishing, just those first two bullet points right there. Now, once the reciprocal link has been established, you must remember that you have to retire from all systems on the same day. So that is the key with reciprocity. So it's not necessarily that when we say we're linking the agencies, a lot of people assume that, okay, we're linking these agencies, so my last agency, whether that's FCERA or whatever, they're just going to pay me my one check, but it's going to be based on everything. That's not true. So depending on how many agencies that you link reciprocity with, because you can link with as many as you have in your career, as long as you meet the requirements, you will have to retire from all those systems individually, but on the same day. So you will have to contact all those agencies individually and just make sure that you retire on the same day. That's super, super important. Because if you retire on a different date, that would be considered breaking reciprocity. And as I discussed on the prior slide, that could be a problem. So keep that in mind. And like I mentioned, I guess I did put it in here. My apologies. And finally, like I mentioned, it's optional. So if you have any questions about reciprocity, feel free to contact our office. We have retirement specialists that are here to help. They can answer any questions that you need. And if they can't answer when you call, we can get the answer for you and give you a call back. Okay, so reciprocal agencies. So here's a list of just the examples of the reciprocal agencies that we, FCERA, can establish reciprocity with during your career. So you can establish reciprocity with any county in California, many cities and municipalities, including the city of Fresno, any CalPERS managed agency. So includes many more than just the state employees. So any agency that is contracted by CalPERS, any agency or local government that has an agreement with CalPERS, the CalSTRS, which is the California State Teachers Retirement System, and then the Judges Retirement System. So there are a lot of options in order to you can establish reciprocity with, as you can see on that list. Just that first bullet point, any county in California, and then you'll get the second one, many cities and municipalities. So like I mentioned, reciprocity is a two-way street. So when you were hired at your current FCERA plan sponsor, whether that's, I'm assuming that majority of the people in this webinar are county and Fresno employees, but we do have others from the courts and other plan sponsors as well. But as I mentioned, it's a two-way street. So if your previous employer before you got hired as a FCERA at your FCERA plan sponsor was a California public agency, you can establish your link. But if you're looking in the future, because we all know life happens, changes happen, career choices, things like that. So if you happen to leave your current FCERA employer to go to another California public agency, make sure it falls on one of those lists or one of those examples there so you can establish reciprocity. If you aren't sure, feel free to call us. Feel free to send us an email. We'll be happy to just look into that for you and get that information to you. So, okay, before I get into retiring with reciprocity, just real quick, for example, if you were to, because I know this question probably will come up, because I do get asked this every once in a while. When someone leaves their FCERA plan sponsor and goes to another California public employer and wants to establish reciprocity, we do get a lot of questions as far as like, well, how soon does this get established? I want to get this done really fast. There's a lot of people that get thrown off by, let's see here. I'm going to go back to that previous slide there, how to establish reciprocity. There's a lot of people that get thrown off by that second bullet point that you have to establish membership at a new association within 6 months. So as long as you become a member within 6 months and you follow that first bullet point of leaving the prior association and leaving the funds on deposit, you're fine. 6 months is becoming a member in that new agency, not 6 months for both agencies to declare that that the link has been established. So we do get questions like, well, hey, it's been 4 months already. I haven't heard if reciprocity has been established. I'm getting a little worried. Don't be worried. As long as you meet those qualifications where you left the other agency, left your money there, and then you became a member within 6 months, you still qualify. It just may take longer to establish because depending on the agency that you're trying to establish with us, it may take a while for us to get that information back and forth, especially like an agency like CalPERS, which is the biggest California public agency. Sometimes it could take a couple months, sometimes it could take 6 or 7. It just depends. So just as long as I want to point that out there that 6 months is for you from the from your last day of your previous employer to joining another California public agency, not 6 months that everything needs to be established and it's already approved and all that stuff. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear there. Okay, so retiring with reciprocity is the next slide here. So if you have reciprocity and you're looking to retire, let's say relatively soon, within the next 5 years or so, you might want to really consider these points here that I have on this slide and just kind of keep this in mind. So if you have reciprocity established, you must retire from all systems on the same day. There's no exceptions. That absolutely has to be. No exceptions. You have to retire all on the same day. So keep that in mind when you're planning. You can contact our office 90 days prior to your retirement date that you've picked. So if you contact us 90 days prior to the retirement date of your choice, our retirement specialist will schedule an appointment with you. Then once you've contacted us, make sure that you contact the other agency as well. You will be meeting separately with all linked agencies. So just because you say that you're going to retire from all systems, you need to make sure that you contact all the agencies that you have reciprocity with, because you're going to be meeting with each one separately, because you will be receiving a check from each linked agency. Now, keep in mind as well, if you have reciprocity, that your first benefit check may be delayed a month or two, depending on the situation. So this is kind of what I mean by that. So when you come in to retire, and let's say that you have CalPERS as your reciprocal agency. Well, when you come in to meet with our specialists and you make appointments, you come in an initial appointment, we go over the options with you, we have you sign paperwork, your retirement application, we do all that stuff there. Before we can have you sign your final option election form where you elect the option, and then we can put you into payroll where you can start getting your benefit, we do need a form from the other agency. That is called a salary Oh my gosh, it's been a while since I've done this. It's a salary form. It's a salary form that we send out to the other reciprocal agency, usually after we counsel you. So on that form that we send to them, the most important things have to be written, have to be filled out. Otherwise, we have to wait for them. So we need the other agency to fill out your date of retirement that you've worked out with them. We look at your years of service, and then the other big important part is your salary. So this is why this could be delayed. Your first benefit check can be delayed a month or two, because depending on how fast the other agency gets that information back to us, that determines when you will get paid. So sometimes it could be a month or two later because it takes that long for the agency to get that information to us. So keep that in mind. That's why it's always good if you have your retirement, if you're planning ahead and you have your retirement date already set, 90 days prior, contact both agencies, get those appointments set, get the ball rolling already. Make sure that you have everything done on your end. So that way, maybe, everything could be more as prepared as possible. But at the end of the day, our hands are tied. If we send the form out to our salary request, that's what it was. If we send the salary request out to the other agency and we haven't gotten it back yet, we will contact the other agency multiple times to try and get that information. But if we don't get that form back, we can't move forward. So that's why there's a possibility that your benefit can be delayed. So another thing that can kind of help with the process, even if you don't have reciprocity and you're just you're planning to retire in the next 5 years, this is stuff that we need from you anyways. So submit necessary documents to FCERA. So your birth certificate, marriage certificate. If you got a divorce during your membership, we need a copy of your divorce documents. Those are super, super important. So make sure you send those to us. Yeah, getting those documents to us sooner rather than later, so we have them in your file, just helps you. It helps make sure that when you're ready to retire and you go through the process, that we have all the necessary paperwork from you as far as those documents, right? So you're not scrambling to go look and try and find these documents. The other one, if applicable, is updated salary check. So this is mostly for members that, let's say, were FCERA members and then left to another agency and established reciprocity, and the other agency is their current employer. If that's the case, sometimes we get checks from them to update their salary, because more 9 times out of 10, if they leave their FCERA membership to go FCERA agency to go to another California public agency, more than likely that other agency, they're making more money. So what they do is they update us and they give us a check of their updated salary, so we can run estimates to kind of give them an idea of what their FCERA benefit will be based off of the highest salary that they're projected to get, plus, and based off of the age that they're retiring and the years of service they actually worked under the FCERA plan. So that's something also to consider right there. But more importantly, just make sure that you get your birth certificate, your marriage certificate, all that stuff there to us sooner rather than later. Okay, so as we're nearing to the last couple slides of the presentation, I always put this slide in because this is a commonly asked question we get at least a handful of times a week. Someone will call, someone will email, hey, how much is my benefit going to be at X date, or when I'm 55, 60? Well, you can do this at home, at work, on your cell phone, anytime you want, 24 hours a day, 365. That by utilizing our FCERA member portal. Now, I know a lot of you already have an account with our FCERA portal and you use it, so that's great. This is one of your best tools to help plan your FCERA retirement. So you can go to our website at fresnocountyretirement.org, register an account with a personal email address. If you have not registered yet, you will need a unique identifier. You can call our office or you can send an email to us using your work email, and we can get that unique identifier for you. The portal provides access to many of the features about your retirement. So you can view your beneficiary information. You can, more importantly, calculate your retirement benefit estimates, so you can see how much your benefit is at different points of your career and the different options that are available to you. You can view your contribution balance and more. So if you have not registered and you do not use this portal, I highly suggest that you do, because this is single-handedly your best financial planning tool for your FCERA pension. So once again, if you haven't registered, just go to our website, register. You need that unique ID, call our office, or send us an email with your work email address and we can get that number to you. And finally, contact information. This is just, for your reference here. Contact our office for any questions. If you're looking to retire relatively soon and you have a date picked out, you can call our office 90 days prior to set an appointment. Our address is 7772 North Palm Avenue. Our office is open now to drop off forms, pick up forms, and I believe we are taking light counseling sessions only for members that are retiring, but you'll need to call based off of retirement specialist availability. Our office hours right now are currently 9 to 12 and then 1 to 5. You can give us a call at 559-457-0681. And then finally, there's that email address. So if you have any questions, feel free to email. You need your unique ID, send an email right there, and we can get that answered for you. And then finally, visit our website at FresnoCountyRetirement.org. There's a lot of information on there. There's going to be, more updates in the future, so definitely check out our website there. Okay, great. So I kind of finished on time at about that 30-minute mark there. So if you have any questions, let's see if we can go through these here. I'll do my best to answer as many as I can, or if I have the answer to them. So let's see, the first one here. If 10 years is required for retirement, does that have to be at one agency? And if 5 years is required to be fully vested, do you have to work at the agency for 5 or more years? Or can you work at one agency for 8 years and another for 3 years and retire with 11 years of service? That is correct, as long as the reciprocal link is established and it is not broken. So that kind of goes back to, and I'm going to kind of go to the advantages portion here again. So that goes into the years of service advantage of establishing reciprocity. Your years of service will be added together from all systems to determine vesting and eligibility. So in your scenario there, if you establish reciprocity, both agencies can use the years of service that you worked at there to help you determine if you're vested in both plans, and then also can help consider toward retirement eligibility. So the answer is yes there. My apologies, I went a little too fast there. Okay, so let's look at the next question here. Okay, so the relative share of retirement from each reciprocal agency is based on the number of years you work there. If 3 years at the first entity, they look at your retirement age and final average comp and calculate what that would be if you had 3 years of service, right? Yes. So if you have reciprocity established, even if they use the years of service from the other agencies to make you vested in their plan, you're only going to get paid a benefit based off the years of service that you actually work there. So you're not going to get paid more because you're like, well, I only worked 3 years there, but I established reciprocity. I worked 30 years total. So I should get paid 30 years on both benefits. No, you're only getting paid based off of the years that you actually worked. Let's see here. When retired from all reciprocal agencies, do we receive checks from all these agencies? Yes, that is correct. So when you retire from all these agencies on the same day, mind you, remember, it's got to be on the same day, you will receive checks from each agency. So when you're going through the retirement process, you do need to make sure that you contact all the agencies individually. You don't just meet with us and just say, hey, well, FCERA is my last agency, they're going to take care of it. No, you need to meet with every agency. On another topic, why are years of vested service sometimes different than years of benefit service? I don't know if I follow that question, honestly. Why are years of vested service sometimes different? I'm not really following with that. So they can be different, I guess, because you could be vested then leave your employer and just let your money sit in the system. And then you can, once you meet your retirement eligibility requirements, you can draw your benefit based off of those 5 years of pension. I mean, I'm assuming that's what you mean, but I don't know what that portion means right there. So the next question is, does that mean Tier 5 is not really affected by this? No, Tier 5 definitely can be affected by this. Absolutely. You still take advantages of, here, let's go back here. You still take advantages of the of those first 2 bullet points there of years of service and salary. So yes, Tier 5 can be affected by reciprocity and definitely can help you. The only thing that Tier 5 does not affect is the 3rd bullet point there of contribution rates. Because Tiers 1 through 4 are based off age of entry into membership, that's how you paid your contributions. Tier 5 doesn't pay contributions based off age. It's a flat rate contribution plan. So That's the only way that Tier 5 is not really affected by reciprocity. But no, Tier 5 can definitely still be an advantage there with reciprocity because of those first 2 bullet points there. Final average compensation equals how many years is the average based on? No. Well, I guess that depends. So final average compensation, the way that's calculated is based on at least from FCERA standards. I can't really speak on all the other agencies, but I can only speak on FCERA standards. So FCERA, for example, if you're, tier 1, for example, we look at your highest 1-year average at any point in your career. Tier 5, we take a look at your 3 highest average years of salary that are consecutive. So that's kind of how we have that figured out for final average compensation. And more of that information can be found on our website as well. Let's see. If I went to work as a teacher in the school system, would I lose my benefit of being able to draw Social Security than the county allows? Social Security is a different benefit than your pension here. So I without trying to misconstrue you, or maybe hopefully if I'm understanding the question correctly, we do get a lot of questions saying, well, if I draw my pension with FCERA, does that mean I don't get Social Security? No, you can still draw Social Security if you're eligible. Social Security is just different. We have nothing to do with Social Security, so we don't really discuss that as much because we don't handle any of that stuff. You have to speak to Social Security separately. The unique identifier that I talked about, that's to help you complete your registration. The reason why you need a unique ID is every account that's in our pension software, we identify your account with that unique ID. So when you're registering for the portal, because you want to pull up your information, not somebody else's, that's why you need that ID. So we hone in on your account there. So that's why you need it to complete the registration. If I worked at another agency, okay, hold on. Oh, you answered disregard. Okay, hold on. If I have reciprocity and I worked at the first agency for 4 years and the second agency for 20 years, my benefit will be calculated at the second agency using the 20 years of service at that agency. Yes, your benefit at each agency, regardless if the link is established or not, your benefit is being calculated on the actual years that you worked, not everything combined. Okay, so if you know the date you want to retire and have multiple reciprocal agencies, can you make an appointment with FCERA more than 3 months in advance? I'm thinking the possible delays in paperwork from the other agencies. Unfortunately, no. So there's a reason why you can't. So we 90 days is the earliest you can contact our office to set an appointment. But when the retirement specialist makes that appointment, we always set that appointment within 60 days from your retirement date of your choice. The reason being, by retirement law, you can't sign your retirement application and any other paperwork outside of that 60-day window. So that's why we make that appointment, because it's by the retirement law. So I understand the concern with the delays and everything, but if you contact all the agencies at that 90-day window and you get those appointments in and get all the paperwork that's needed, it would help the process. Unfortunately, I can't guarantee that there's not going to be any delays. Sometimes, in my experience, I've seen sometimes there hasn't been delays and I get the salary request fairly soon. Others, it's taken a month or two. So I can't really sit here and say that it's a guarantee that you won't have delays even with scheduling those out. But it would be best to keep up with your reciprocal agencies, talk to them, especially if you're looking to retire. Contact them, all of them, at least 90 days prior, and find out what you need to do and kind of get the ball rolling. If an employee of the county has worked part-time with a CalPERS employer during the course of their full-time employment with the county, would the county employee need to retire from the county, then join the CalPERS to establish reciprocity to capture the years of part-time service? Oh boy, that is an open-ended question. Oh boy. Okay, so I'm going to read this question again, and I don't know if I can answer this today. You may have to send us an email, and I'll forward this to the retirement specialist. If an employee of the county has worked part-time with with the CalPERS employer during the course of their full-time employment with the county. Would the county employee need to retire from the county, then join the CalPERS system to? Oh, okay. So I misread that. To establish reciprocity to capture the years of part-time service with the CalPERS employer. Would the joining of CalPERS require full-time employment? So I can already tell you, you can't establish reciprocity based off of what you said. Because, let me see if I can find that slide there. So the reason that reciprocity in that question cannot be established is because what you're saying is you were part-time with CalPERS, with the CalPERS employer in this example, while working full-time. You can't work for both agencies at the same time. So that's the first bullet point there to establish reciprocity. You must terminate and leave contributions on deposit at a prior retirement association. The second part of your question, or that you mentioned there, is then join, let's see, would the county employee just need to retire from the county, then join CalPERS to establish reciprocity? You can't establish reciprocity if you're already retired from one agency. So if you're retired from FCERA and you go to CalPERS and want to establish reciprocity, that won't work. You can't do that. Now, if you weren't working for CalPERS, but you were working for the county of Fresno full time, you left and went to CalPERS, but just left your funds on deposit with us and met that other requirement, yeah, you can establish reciprocity. But in that question there that you listed, just because you said that if you were to retire, would you have to retire and then go establish reciprocity? You can't do that. You can't retire and establish that link. As the same as well as even if it's part-time, you can't work for both agencies at the same time. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Hopefully I answered your question there. So we have about 9 more minutes. So if you have any other questions, feel free to ask those in the chat there. Once again, I want to thank you all for being here and checking out the Lunch and Learn webinar. This is something new that we started this year. Very excited about. We're hopefully going to be doing at least 6 or 7 of these a year. I have a couple in the pipeline that I'm working on right now. I don't have an official release date for them yet, but just look out for those emails that I send to the employer, the plan sponsor, whether that's all county emails. I send them to the other plan sponsors that are spread amongst the employees and stuff like that. And we can, so you know what's going on. We also have, if we have some members in the webinar here that at least have 5 years of service, we have a mid-career seminar or mid-career webinar that I put on that it's going to be in September. I don't have the date finalized yet, but that webinar there is for anyone that has at least 5 years of service that's not going to retire that's not going to retire for at least 10 years or more. Kind of gives you an idea of what to plan for, what to look for retirement and things like that. And then I'm currently working on a pre-retirement seminar webinar as well, but I don't have a date for that release yet. But the thought process is we're going to get more content to you so to help you better plan your retirement and get more education out there about your pension. Okay. All right, so let's see. Do we have any other questions? I see like the chat has gone silent. Okay, so give me 1 second here. Okay, perfect. We got a question. Okay. So if I work at Fresno for 5 years and elsewhere for 10, am I getting 15 years credit, or is it a portion to each? Am I getting a separate check from the agencies at retirement? Okay, so I'm going to take this question in pieces. So if I worked at Fresno for 5 years and elsewhere for 10, so if you worked at another California public agency and you established reciprocity, you're getting 2 separate checks. You're going to get one from FCERA and one from the other linked agency that we established reciprocity with. So both of those checks combined will make up for your total complete 15 years of service that you earned. So your checks that you're getting from each agency are going to be based off of the years of service that you actually worked on them there. The highest salary between either agency, whether it's FCERA or the other agency that you linked, and then the age. So that's kind of how that works with reciprocity. You're getting a separate check from each agency. You have to make sure that you contact both agencies. That's super, super important. I can't stress that enough. You have to contact both agencies at the same and retire on the same date. If not, you cannot take advantages of those of reciprocity, as I've talked about in the presentation. So that's super, super, super important. But that's kind of how that works. Yes, you are getting a separate check from each agency, and it's going to be based off of the years of service that you actually worked. Okay, very good questions though. Thank you so much. Very, very good questions. And you know, if there is a retirement topic that you're looking that you may think would be interesting for us to have a webinar on, you know, you can always shoot me an email right there, or you can give me a call. I'll be happy to take suggestions and we can look into that, see if we can do something like that. But I definitely enjoy doing these webinars and providing this information to all of you. So, you know, I definitely want to keep going with these. You will all get a email from me later this afternoon with a survey. So I do definitely appreciate if you fill out that survey and just kind of let me know how I did. Give me suggestions if you have any feedback about the webinar, because we definitely want to make these more. We want to definitely improve every time that we do them. Okay. So let's see here. We got about 5 minutes left. If there's, you know, we'll see if there's any more questions here. But if you have no questions, you're free to leave the webinar. You can enjoy your last few minutes of lunch. So you're free to definitely go check out the rest of your lunch. So when will this presentation be available so that can be reviewed later? So actually, when this webinar ends, I'm going to do some video editing and I'm going to post this on our website, or not on our website. I will be sending you an email with that survey, but I will also drop a link to the video for our YouTube page as well. So you can look on that. And then on that YouTube page as well, I have the 2 other presentations, the mid-career webinar and also our first lunch and learn about benefit options. So you will see, you will get that link in that email. I will probably send it out later this afternoon, probably around 3 or 4, because after this I got to do upload the video and do video editing. So very good questions. Okay, so got a couple more minutes left. I'm gonna say that's probably all the questions that I'm probably going to get today, I would assume. I'll give it another minute here, and then other than that, I think that's going to do it for us today. So once again, I want to just thank you all for taking the time out of your day to learn more about your retirement. We definitely appreciate it. If you have questions, you know, feel free to call our office, send us an email. You know, you can call me. I can forward your questions to the retirement specialist, things like that. We're definitely here to help with any retirement questions that you do have. We want to help you plan for that next part of your life, that next chapter. So I'll appreciate that. Thank you so much for attending. I appreciate that. And no, it's no problem to us. We're happy to give that information out to you all. So I hope you all found this presentation very informational and, you know, enjoyable. We will see you at the next webinar. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.